Hello, everybody. Welcome to already season number 4. It's episode 1 of the Global Radio Ideas webinar series. Great to see everybody again. It's been a couple of months with the Christmas holidays and Chris's holiday in Australia last month. So great to have you here. My name's Ken Benson from P1 Media Group. And with me today from Stuttgart, Germany, my co-host, the CEO of Benstown, Andy Sanneman. Welcome, Andy.
Hey, guys.
Good to see you.
Hey, guys. Hello. So Ken said it, season 4, wow. So thanks for joining us for today's webinar. And I think we got a promising title and a very promising guest. So from street teamer to morning radio superstar, how Kris Spade from Virgin Radio Dubai built a multimedia empire. That's something I'm really interested in. I'll try to do this for years. Didn't work out so well for me, but fine. So chat box, guys, as always, is activated. Let us know where in the world you're watching. And if you have questions, please post it. Hopefully, Kris might take some at the end of the show, but let's see.
So we only have 45 minutes because it's 10 at night in Dubai, and this guy's been up since 4 in the morning, and he's got a morning show to do and wake up in a couple hours. So we'll keep this short. We've condensed his incredible bio the best we could, but he grew up in Australia and began working at his hometown station as a street teamer, and then later as a DJ and music director for Edge 96.1. And in 2008, he had an opportunity to move to Dubai to help launch Virgin's first radio station in the Middle East. And it turned out to be a pretty good thing. It dominated the English market and continues to do that today. And his show today, beyond being heard locally in the UAE every morning, it's also heard daily in Lebanon and throughout Australia on the KISS network. And not really bad for a guy that was once told by an old boss, quote, "You will never be put on the radio." Wow. So today he's not only a radio star, he recently starred in a top-rated Netflix reality series, Dubai Bling. We'll talk about that. And when he's not on radio or TV, he's a social media influencer, a serial entrepreneur. You may see him interviewing the A-listers on the red carpet at the Oscars. And when the Pope made his historic trip to Dubai, the one guy they went to host this event, Kris Spade. So today he's such a big celebrity in Dubai. He even has a wax figure in Madame Tussauds. Will the real Kris Spade please stand up or sit down? Maybe you're already standing. So Kris, from the #1 rated Kris Spade show at Virgin Radio Dubai, welcome, and it's great to have you.
What an intro. Happy to be here, guys. Thank you so much. Honored to be on it as well, man. So let's have some fun.
So I just wanted to share this photo to show you that I kind of know this guy and that, you know, I'm hanging with a cool celebrity. So this was some years ago at the Dubai Film Festival with consultant John Simons and my beautiful wife, Lori. So here we go. So let's jump into your love life and start off right off the bat. Tell us something that we may not know about you.
Sorry, it dropped out for a moment there. What was the question?
Okay, well, just want to say we wanted to begin by learning something about you that people may not know.
I'm a mummy's boy. So
okay.
growing up in Sydney, Australia, with obviously a fairly close Lebanese family. Us Lebanese boys, we're like little mummy's boys, and even though at my age right now, I sort of am closer to my parents than I think I ever have been. So, but if you've watched the recent sort of Netflix reality show, you know that sort of comes across as well. So, the other thing is I don't like mornings. I'm not a morning person yet. Been doing a morning radio show for 16 years. When I took the job in Dubai, I was offered somewhat mornings, and I said no. Let me do drive because I wanted to just sleep, and it didn't last too long. And 16 years been waking up at 4:20 in the morning. It's not easy, but
oh my God.
We have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, I don't think any morning person really likes to wake up at 4 in the morning. It's just not normal. But obviously, you must be very good at it, in spite of what that early boss told you. It said you would never be on the radio. So I can imagine, as a young aspiring radio presenter, that news was devastating to hear. How did it affect you, and how did you persevere?
Yeah, so I accidentally fell into radio. It wasn't something that I knew that I wanted to do. I didn't step into a studio until I was probably like 23, 24 years old. I was working a number of different jobs. I was a cleaner. I used to wash cars. I was a barista. So I did this out of school because I saw what I wanted to do. I didn't do too well at school. I end up finding a job as a promotional car driver, like driving the promotional vehicle for the Edge 96.1. They ran a promo called Job Survivor, like the TV show Survivor. And they got about 10 of us to work for the radio station for about a month and do stunts and dares. And out of the 10, every week, one would be lost. And finally, it was down to 3 of us for the final, in the last week for the final job. And I didn't win. I came second. I came runner up. And the person that did get the job supposedly crashed the promotional car about 10 days into it. And so they called me up and they said, hey, the person that actually won probably doesn't want the job anymore. Would you like it? And I said, you know what? Let's give it a go. So I started driving the promotional vehicle around Sydney and I did that for 3 years. But it was after year number 1 that I realized that my pass into the building got me to the studios, right? I didn't realize level 3 where the studios were, my pass took me there. And when I realized that, I started just sort of visiting the studios a lot more, and I got to befriend some of the presenters. And, you know, thankfully, some of those presenters like opened up the studio door for me, and they let me just sort of see how they did radio. And that's when I fell in love with it. That's when I realized, man, I want to do this for a living. So I used to just, after my promotional shift, I'd go upstairs and just hang out with all the presenters, and I would learn from each one of them. And then eventually I used to go into the spare studio and just start putting down breaks and teaching myself how to do it. And I'd be going, you know, back and forth. You know, one of the program directors at the time, he was the one I still recall being on the roof, and I used to smoke back then. And I'd be on the roof at ARN in Sydney, and I was having a cigarette, and he was up there, and he said to me, not going to be putting you on the radio. No, just I want you to know that you won't be getting on the radio. And I remember hearing that. And like you said, it was this crushing, you know, sentence that I will always remember. And then ironically, about a month later, he got fired. And a new guy came in. And this new guy, his name was Charlie Fox. And he's like one of my mentors now. And I recall walking past Charlie, and he just said to me, who are you? And I said, oh, I'm Kris. I do the streetcar. And he goes, I like you. You've been on the radio before? And I said, oh, I've been practicing. He goes, send me a demo. And I remember I just gave him a little demo that I had. And he said, you're on midnight to dawn, pre-recorded. Let's go. And I mean, from there was my first sort of taste of doing quote unquote real radio. You know, midnight till 5 a.m. pre-recorded, but it got me into the motion of just learning the art of doing breaks and saving stuff and talking into music. It was really cool. And then from there, you know, I progressively got into other shows. And the worst thing about it was that program director, about 4 months later, I saw working in a video store, a rental video store, like a Blockbuster, right? And,
oh my God.
I walked in there to hire a movie or hire a DVD, and he was working behind the counter, and I felt so embarrassed that I just walked out. I didn't want him to see me.
That's a crazy story. I mean, I wish a lot of like the younger and the kids listen to that. I mean, obviously, like if you work with younger people these days, I feel the ambition sometimes is not as great as for radio, at least as it was like when we were younger. I mean, that's a sensational story. So, I mean, then after that, you moved to Dubai in 2007. I guess you thought it'd be a fun adventure. You helped launch the station, first Virgin Radio Middle East. But Ken alluded before, like 16 years later, you're still in Dubai. Like, what has changed, like, from like arriving there and now 16 years into that gig?
Yeah, that was, you know, again, I did radio in Sydney for about 3.5, 4 years for the station, and I was doing it for the Edge, and then I floated to a couple of other radio stations in the network as well, and was enjoying it. But then an opportunity came up from Ian Grace, who is the sort of like, you know, the boss of Virgin Radio International, and he runs a bunch of net stations out of Australia. And my mentor, Charlie Fox, at the time said, mate, you've done a lot here. There's not much more that you can do unless you bounce over to another network in Australia, or would you be interested in going overseas? So met with Ian Grace. He told me, I've got 2 options for you. I've got Kuala Lumpur. I've got a station in Malaysia that you'd fit right into, or I'm opening up this new radio station. It's the first Virgin radio brand in the Middle East. And we'll be pushing that. We'll be pushing play on that in about a year. And so I opted to do Dubai. It was 4 hours away from Lebanon, which is where sort of my heritage is from. And I thought, maybe I can pick up and learn some more Arabic. There wasn't much on Dubai 16 years ago. I recall going onto the internet, and Wikipedia didn't really have much about it. There was very little bits about it, except it was like this city of money. But I took the leap. I told mum and dad I'll go for a couple of years. That was 2007, and came out here as the music director and drive presenter, and helped set the station up with a gentleman. I can hear a bit of noise from mine. Are you guys okay?
Yeah. Hey, Andy, did your mic go bad?
Okay, I think that's gone now.
That's
it's
better.
Good
Yeah.
now. I came out here with a gentleman out of New Zealand called Steve Pulley. He was the program director. He set the station up. I helped him out, and it was pretty crazy because we moved to a really old office in Dubai. It was one of the oldest offices I've ever seen. And they gave us a computer, and they said, your frequency is 104.4, and it's ready to go in about 3 weeks when you're ready. And there we were together. He was from New Zealand. I was from Sydney. We're in this foreign city. And the next thing you know, we're there sort of creating a radio station, which is something that I've never been able to do in my radio career. And it was really cool to be able to do that.
That's fantastic.
So obviously Virgin is an incredible brand and an incredible radio brand. So you guys have gone in there and kicked some serious butt over the years and dominate the market. I know Richard Branson gets to Dubai on occasion and stops by the radio station. I've met him a few times during my time at MTV. So what is your relationship like with him? How has he helped you, and what's he like?
I've met Sir Richard Branson a number of times. He came out to launch the station. That was the first time I got to meet him, and he was charismatic, energetic, personable, and just very cool. And since then, I've been around him probably 15 times over the last 16 years, and I can tell you this: every time he's like this. He's never not on. He's never not real. He's just great. And he's come to the studio many times. 7 o'clock in the morning, he's on. He'll get off a flight at 2 a.m., but he'll still make it there for 7 o'clock. He's just one of those guys he's from an entrepreneurial point of view as well. And just as a man and as a father, I just find him to be truly, truly amazing. And, about 2 years ago, I remember I was lying in bed, and I was with my wife, and it was about 10 o'clock at night, and I get an email, and it says Richard Branson, and I thought, this is interesting. And I follow Richard on LinkedIn, and I thought maybe it was just a push of something that he's doing, and it was just like, hey Kris, just want to say thanks for what you did. Really, really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you in Dubai next time. And I just looked at my wife. I said, oh my gosh, Richard Branson just emailed me. And I replied, and I had just done something very small for him. And it was something personal, and it was very small, but I did not think that he was going to send an email on it. There was no need for him to do so. And the fact that he did was just it just shows you the type of man that he is, right? And so when he went up to space recently, I was like, I'm going to send him an email, let's see what happens. And I sent him an email. Congratulations. Well done on what you did. Not many could do it. We're very proud of you, and I'm honored to represent Virgin. And he replied again, and I'm like, I'm on an email thread with Sir Richard Branson.
Maybe I'll try to do a LinkedIn message to Richard later. Maybe he sends me something back too. That's fascinating. It's so awesome. And you know why he's so successful. It's incredible.
Yeah,
Absolutely incredible.
And I find that, like, you know, even with the big celebs that you meet, everyone that you get to meet, like, the bigger they are, I feel sometimes the classier they are, the more professional that they are, the more on time that they are. And I think that showcases who they are. That's why they are in that position.
You know, I totally agree with that assessment, Kris. That's been my experience as well. So let's talk about, you grew up in Sydney, you moved to Dubai. I mean, two really different types of places. So how do you adapt to the Dubai market? And most importantly, culturally, it's a very different place than what you were accustomed to. And with all that, you grew this massive audience at Virgin Radio. What's the secret?
Man, I don't know. I don't know I can't. A lot of people ask me, like, you know, how did you do it here in the UAE? How did you do it? What is the secret? And, you know, I just got to say, from my own point, it'd be it's hard work. It's not easy. It didn't come overnight. You know, the first 5 years in this city, I knew pretty much not a lot of people. The way that we worked radio in this region, I think the station did a really good job setting it up. It was a CHR radio station. It didn't have to be. We did a study. Virgin came in and did a study of the market and what it was lacking. And a hot CHR station was what we needed. When we obtained our radio presenters, we went around the world and we got from all different cultures and nationalities, because that's what Dubai and the UAE is really all about. It's a melting pot of every nationality. There's not many cities in the world or countries in the world like the UAE. So we had a presenter from Pakistan, one from Canada, one from America, one from India, one from Australia, Lebanese, British. So we really showcased what the city was about. We weren't a radio station that was just targeting the South Asian audience or the Filipino audience or the expat audience. We were a radio station targeting the UAE. And we did that with our music and we did that with our content. So that was the first step. I think the station as a whole really put a sort of footprint in to say, this is who we are. We are the UAE. We are Dubai. My presenting skills, like, I like to keep it pretty real. I say what I want in the sense of I'm honest with my audience. And I think human connection is really important. When you can connect with that one person in their car on a different level, you will have them for the rest of your life, right? So I try to make sure that everything that we put and that I was doing, especially early on in the career of radio here, was pretty personable. Now, we did have to change a few things around. Radio here is a lot cleaner. We don't talk about, you know, anything sexual, alcohol. We don't talk about local governments or the politics within the city. And those things coming from Australia was a little bit different, because in Australia, you are a little bit more laid back. You are allowed to say a bit more. But you know what? 16 years in makes me a better presenter. I've found better ways to get a laugh at the end, rather than making just a sex pun at the end to get a laugh, or, you know, a crappy little joke. Like, it trained us to be better presenters. And, you know, no matter what market we would end up in or what I end up in, you know, if it's here or somewhere else, or if we keep getting syndicated across the globe, our show literally fits in to it, because, you know, it's good for the 10-year-olds, but it's also good for the 30-year-olds, the 40-year-olds, the 50-year-olds. Like, we try to create it. So, you know, every day sometimes it can be a challenge. I'm not going to say, oh, it's the easiest thing. It's a challenge sometimes, because you do want to go and you want to talk about a certain thing, but you may have to pull back on it and maybe go from a different angle.
Yeah, that kind of wants to make me visit Dubai again. Like, I've been there like a couple of years ago. Maybe, like you said, like into 7 to 8, it was very, like, there was not a lot there. So most people watching
everything since 2008 to 2023, huge changes in the city and the country, like, massively, in such a positive way. It was fantastic in 2007, but where we are right now, like, it's pretty crazy, like, as in how amazing. You'll find that a lot of people that live here, this is how they talk about the city. And it's true. It's like it truly is like that. The safety wise of it, the way it runs, the way that things just get done, how beautiful it is visually, the people. I put a video on my Instagram just 2 days ago. Someone puts down a mobile phone to hold their table at the shopping center, at the mall. And that's the norm. Like, no one's going to take your phone. Like, it truly has this special, I don't know, element to it.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I think there's some countries, Japan might be that way too, where people just are humble and have like respect from the belongs from others. But I mean, most people watching the webinar, I hope they learn a good bit like about Dubai, which we do a little bit now, and then they might not have heard of your show because, again, like more in the English or British market, some people might know because of the syndication, Australia and so on. But why? I mean, you kind of alluded on that point, but the show, is there any specifics to it that you can share? Like, obviously the successful, why it is, we pondered on that a little bit. So, and also what's interesting to me is how important do you think is the imaging and the branding of the show, like, and the things that set it apart?
I'll kick it off with the imaging and the branding. I think it's very important. I think the voice that you use, the way that it's edited, the way it's all put together, I think is pretty important. We have Vinay locally, who's been doing a lot of the production for us, and we've got a few sort of across in Australia, Mitch and a few others that do some work for us as well.
Mitch is an awesome guy.
Yeah. So, and I think it's really important to move with the times as well. Like, it's important to have imaging that moves along and sort of is relevant to certain things as well. I've seen and heard stations that are running the same imaging all year. And it just, it becomes monotonous, it becomes tiring. And I think to the audience, it becomes the same. I know when I'm starting to hear something too much, like if I'm hearing it, I know my audience is hearing it soon as well. So, I'll always send a message of like, guys, let's refresh some things. So I think that's important. From a show perspective, I do the show with Pretty Malik. She's from New York City, but she's Indian. She's like my sister. Like, she's my Jackie O. If there's a Kyle and Jackie O, she's my Jackie O. Like, she is a soulmate. We talk. We're friends on and off the radio. She knows my deepest, darkest secrets. I know hers. Everything that I've gone through in my life personally, she'll be there for me. So having that connection with someone and you've been able to be on air with them, instantly you've got this human connection again that sort of other people can hear through the radio and they can connect with us, which I think is really important. And then you've got, Big Rossi, who's from Liverpool, England, and he's just a character. He's, you never know what he's going to say. And again, we all understand each other really well and we're all characters. People, so sometimes, people tune into our show because it is like the sitcom. It's like they don't know what's going to happen next or they want to follow up to what's going on. Rossi's got a new baby in the next 12 days and we've been following the whole journey. And, today we strapped the watermelon to his stomach because he said that he felt like pregnancy wasn't that bad. So like, today we put that watermelon on him for an hour and a half and, he was like literally wanting to rip it off because he couldn't handle it. And so, and then we got the callers from other women sort of talking about all the other stuff that happens. And we want to just be relatable. And I think just being relatable is a key with any morning show. You want to know what everyone else is talking about. And you don't want to do it in that cliche way where, I know that we get, there's studies done around the world and different radio stations about like, what does the audience want to hear? They want to hear the news and they want to hear their good music and they want traffic updates and they want that all makes sense. Like that is 100% true. We do need that in there, but it's the way that it's presented and everything around it that really clicks. So I think over the 16 years, we, especially the beginning of this year, we kicked it into a gear again, and it's hard to do that after so many years because sometimes you just, okay, let's get back into that sort of routine. But the beginning of 2023, we sort of kicked it into another gear, and we've never had as many calls come in from 6 o'clock in the morning. As soon as we go live, phones are lit, and that's something really special. We do topics where we don't even solicit for solicit for calls, and the calls just come in now. Like we're at that point where it's so beautiful just to see it all happening, you know.
That's awesome.
So Kris, let me ask you this, because a lot of stations we talk to, work with, presenters, morning shows, they no longer get the phones to ring, or it's very difficult to get the phones to ring. Is there some secret, or what are you guys doing? Because most people would rather text or just not engage. So
Again, I think it's the loyalty that and the large audience that we do have, first of all. So I think it doesn't just happen overnight. You need to have a good audience at 6 o'clock in the morning who are already ready to go. Our first bit out of the top of the hour is first caller of the day. That's all I want. Let's just get on. Let's just have a chat and find out what you're doing. And we'll always have. We've got 8 phone lines. At 6 o'clock, we'll always have from 4 to 7 ringing, right? And again, I just think it's the way you present it. And, you know, I get on and I'll just be like straight out, oh, we've told you what we did last night. What are you up to right now? I don't care if you're on the way to the work. I don't care if you're on the way to the gym. Maybe you're dropping the kids off to swimming in the morning. Give me a call. You may have never called a radio station before in your life. You don't think you're that type of person. Call me now, right? And then it's just connecting and it calls. And you know, this morning we had an air traffic controller who just finished his shift, and the next thing you know, we're talking to this guy about his job and how he manages 11 planes in the air in Dubai landing, you know. And then I asked him how much sleep he got, because now I'm worried because I'm a nervous player. Like, you know, how long is their shift? You know, are they allowed to do overtime? Because I don't want them doing overtime in that job, right? But it was such a great call. And, you know, then we went into a 12-year-old girl on the way to swimming practice. And then we went on to a lady that just hit the gym. And, you know, just getting that at 6 a.m. in the morning for us as well as presenters, like, it kicked the show off in the right way. And that's what I tell the audience. We need you guys for those first calls because it wakes us up. And we're honest with our audience. It does wake us up as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I hope some of those that view this maybe take some of your tips and start to at least try and cultivate more calls into the show, because it makes such a difference. So
I really like the point. You're not that guy that ever called a radio station. You think you're not that type, but call me. I think that's like such a powerful little line and such a powerful cue, because a lot of people, I bet, are more people that are not feeling that they're the type of guys or girls that would call a radio station, you know.
Yeah. So, and the other thing I wanted to say was, because I get frustrated hearing other radio stations just read out messages. Like, they'll just be like, oh, and Lucy said on the line, ... Oh, and Dave said, ... And I mean, sometimes I hear them read out 3 or 4 messages, and I'm like, man, just get one of them on the phone. Give me one call.
Yeah, I completely agree, Kris. So I want to remind everybody we're chatting with Virgin Radio Dubai morning superstar Kris Fade. He's going to take some questions at the end of the show. I've already seen a few questions come in the chat box. So if there's something you want to ask Kris, type it in there and we'll get it to you, or get to them in just a couple of minutes. So I know for many people, Kris Fade is probably a new name, especially in this hemisphere. But you're often referred to, I don't know if it's a fair comparison or not, but I hear people say he's the Ryan Seacrest of the Middle East. But regardless, you guys are both radio superstars and bona fide media celebrities. So what is it about you and Ryan that makes you guys so special, helped you break through and be, you know, reach and achieve this highest level you possibly can?
Firstly, for me, Ryan Seacrest is someone that I look up to from a career path point of view, right? What he does, not only just on air, but on TV, and his production company that he belongs, and he's got clothing out and all that, I just think is fabulous. I got to meet Ryan through Dennis Clark, and he connected us, and I went to his taping of his show in New York City, right? And he does the morning TV show there. And I was just there as, you know, in the audience, and Ryan Seacrest, you know, halfway through the show just stops and he's like, guys, I want to welcome Kris Fade from Dubai. And he gave me this, you know, amazing plug to the live audience, and everyone gave me a round of applause. And I'm thinking to myself, I said to my wife, I'm like, man, this is Ryan Seacrest. Like, this is freaking cool, right? And then afterwards, afterwards, he's like, "Hey, listen, I'm doing my show downstairs for LA for Kiss, the radio show." He's like, "Come down and hang out." And I'm like, "Oh gosh," from one radio nerd to another, like, that's where you want to be. I want to see how Seacrest does it, right? So we went downstairs to his studio, which they've built inside the TV studios there in New York, and I just sat with him and watched him do his thing, which is really unbelievable to watch because he's obviously syndicated globally into so many markets. He's got a bunch of things going on with different microphones, and his producers are just doing a fabulous job at the same time. So he then interviewed me, which was pretty cool to be on Ryan's show. But then since then, we've sort of kept in contact lightly. He heard that I was on Dubai Bling recently on the Netflix show, and he gave me a big rave on his show once again. But I think just, again, looking up to someone who is doing more than just what he does on radio. He does it in so many assets and aspects, but it all works together. And I think that's really important now, like from social media to TV to radio to whatever else, they all come together and they all help each other out.
Yeah, he built a pretty significant network. I agree. So you said there was this girls go to swim practice or lady hitting the gym. So obviously we both like spending time in the gym a little bit. So doing a little research and Ken pointing me in that direction. Tell me something about your new, or if it's a new thing, or I recently learned about it, the Fate Fit, like snacking company. So what is this? What is this all about?
So when I moved to Dubai, I was fairly fit. And then over 4 or 5 years, I fell into a rut. I put on a bunch of weight. I got up to about 128 kilos. I don't know what that is in pounds, but
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah, I was fat. I was heavily overweight, and I got into depression, and I started suffering from anxiety, and I didn't know what that was. I was going through a horrible divorce at the time, and I had all this stuff going on, and I just knew I wasn't right. And the only thing that made me feel better was I started going to the gym. And when I started going to the gym, I ended up obviously losing a bit of weight, but I started to mentally feel a lot better. And it was like a high for me. I'd go to the gym and I'd feel great. So I started going twice a day, and then I got obsessed with it. And I started eating really clean, and I got ripped. I went from 128 kilos to 91, right? And I was six-packed out, and I was just divorced, so I wanted to get my sexy back. I wanted to hit the market again. So as I got fit, a lot of my followers started messaging me, "How did you do it?" And I used to DM them back. But I started getting a lot of messages like, I get 100 a week of what did you do to drop your weight? And so I created a day called Fade Fit. And that was because it was a hashtag that I used to use just for myself, right? I was getting fit, Kris Fade Fit. We did a free seminar where we had, psychologists, nutritionists, personal trainers, myself, motivational speakers. Reebok came and sponsored the event, and I had about 2,000 people rock up, and it was just a beautiful day of great energy. And a lot of people left in tears. A lot of people left with new ways to start their life. That was what Fade Fit stood for. A year after that, I decided to create healthy snacks. I felt there was a gap in the market in this region for healthier options when it comes to snacks. And we released kids snacks to begin with. Then we released adult snacks, protein snacks, yogurts. We're now a multi-million-dollar company. We're available in every Starbucks across the Middle East. We're available in all the biggest shopping, sort of stores in the region. We've just signed distribution into Australia. We're in LA in 3 weeks to present at the largest food expo as well. We were the official snack for LeBron James's Space Jam. We had Bugs Bunny and LeBron James in our package. So, I utilized the radio as well, because I created the snack with my audience. So it was this really good story narrative of what I was creating, which I was paying for on airtime, by the way. I wasn't getting it for free. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just, trying to, overexpose who I am on air. And now, it's a a fairly good running company that my wife and my kids run together with a team, and we want to keep growing it as the years go on.
That's awesome. Man, you're like a Shark Tank Dragon's Den success story. That's really cool. So we got about 10 minutes left because we know we got to put you to bed because you have a morning show to do in about 8 hours or 7 hours.
Yeah.
But we did want to ask you about your #1 stream Netflix series, Dubai Bling, that you're on with your beautiful wife. There she is, Brianna, and a whole bunch of others. How did that come about, and how has that helped propel the Kris Fade brand?
Yeah, pretty crazy. I got contacted, last year sometime about this reality show. They never said it was on sort of Netflix. It was just a reality show that they were shooting. I was pretty apprehensive about it. I declined. They came back again. I had another discussion. I wasn't sure about it. Found out it was on Netflix. Did not know the name of the show until we finished the show, after we made the show. Knew somewhat of the premise of what it was all going to be about. Again, went into it. Very risky when you go into reality TV because you sign your life away. Anything that's filmed, they own. They can do whatever they want with. It's not like radio where you can control the narrative. You see the footage for the first time when it's released on Netflix globally with everybody else. You don't get to see it beforehand. That is a Netflix.
Wow.
So very, very scary. But we shot it and we loved it. And it's got what every reality show needs. It needs a bit of love. It needs some drama. It needs some trashy drama. But the show went #1, I think, in, something like 67 countries. It was top 10 globally, though, top 5 in most. And what it's done for us, apart from 200,000 new followers on social media in about a month, it's helped my Fade Fit brand, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to get involved, because that narrative's in there. My wife and I got married in season 1, which was pretty epic. And it's also, it's just interesting. Like, I wasn't sure when I went to Australia about a month ago, I sort of, as soon as I landed, it was like security were right there and they're like, there he is. Can we get a photo with you? And I'm like, sheesh. And my entire journey in Australia, no matter where I went, people coming up, talking about Dubai Bling, wanting to take photos. I went to Qatar 2 weeks ago, the same thing. Brazil, we're getting a lot of messages from Brazil, from Spain, from the UK. Like, it's crazy to see what this show has done. Netflix is powerful. That's all I can say. It's like,
the takeaway in Netflix is powerful.
I mean, because it just opened up just so much of, from doing radio sort of like regionally to doing something that's on a global level. It's a huge jump. And at the end of the day, we enjoyed it. I look back at it and I thought to myself, you know what? I like the way that we sort of came across. I think we were as real as we possibly could. And I love being able to showcase all the goodness of Dubai.
I think that would be an entire episode of its own, because that'd be like, for me, a clear no. I could not imagine myself. I mean, obviously nobody wants to see that, but still, like, I'd be like, oh my God, like, it'd be so embarrassing, like running, swearing, and like through a household.
But I think about it like this. A lot of people ask me, if I say, like, I do a morning radio show, I share my life with everyone.
Yeah, you're
anyway.
right. You already do it. Yeah.
It's just on air. Like, this is just a larger platform. And yes, there's cameras now involved and, there's a little bit less control. That was the hardest thing for me to do because, when I'm running my show on air, you're like a conductor. You know what's going on. Let's bring this in. Let's bring this. Okay, I want that caller off. Let's get here. You do nothing. Yeah. You can't even, they're doing it.
That's what I mean. That'd be so scary for me. My God. I got freaked the fuck out.
Yeah. So listen, Kris, this obviously helped propel and grow your social media presence even more. You have a massive following. So tell us about how you use that to be a social media influencer and how that helps the radio station not only promote it, but helps the radio station make money, because everyone in radio today, it's always about the end of the day. Yeah, we want audience, but we want to make money. So how does that all work?
I mean, that's our show page, which is we use only for show content, which we like. Actually, we control that. We throw a lot of that sort of. We've got the Virgin Radio page. I've got my personal page as well. Listen, I'm really proud of ARN, the network here, because I think some networks would be a little bit wary of maybe, oh, should he be doing this show? Or is it going to damage what we've done? Maybe could he come off? Now, there's always a risk when doing some type of reality because you never know what's going to come out of it, right? But I know who I am as a person, and I know what I'm going to be able to do, right? It's definitely brought more attention to the station. And when we're doing surveys and we need, the ticks in the books, this is definitely top of mind. There was actually a Virgin Radio scene in Dubai Bling season 1, which was epic because it showcased it. They were in my studio whilst I interviewed another one of the cast members. So just the presence for the brand was fantastic. And then obviously personally, it's just more talkability about the main morning guy, right? So, your advertisers want to be more involved. My social network has grown as well, which allows us to do split campaigns with the network. So a company or a brand wants to advertise on Kris Fade's Instagram account and on the Kris Fade show. Guess what? You can get both. And now sales within ARN have the ability to go out and sell not only the on-air exposure, but my personal social media as well. And they work closely with my management, my personal manager, to make sure that it all works well. And we've been doing this for a while now, and it gels really, really well.
Well, it's really smart. I think that's the way to go. Like Ryan, you obviously built that all together, that it keeps coming and keeps giving, it's fantastic.
And you want to be like, if any, PDs end up watching this or marketing departments or CEOs or whoever, restricting your talent to do stuff on social media, on their personal social media, is not the way to go. And I've seen that from a lot of friends, even outside this country, right? Where programming or management want to come in and say, hey, you can't be doing that. You're taking away from our money. My advice would be grow together, grow, because when your talent's growing and they're on your station, they're only going to grow your station. My personal media following is, 3 times bigger than the station's social media following, right? I'm tagging them. I want to push them. I want to push our brand. I've got the passion that and the loyalty that I want that to keep pushing Virgin Radio, or if it's the KISS network across Australia, and that's the advice. Because earlier on, when we weren't sure about where social media was going about 7-8 years ago, some of the management would be like, no, all talent, you can't have your own Instagram. Don't mention your Instagram on air. But now I think we're starting to learn that you can actually form this really cool circle together and work together and grow together.
Yeah, also it's all personal brands. I mean, there's so many personal brands through social networks, come the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. It's incredible. I mean, you can't take that away. That money would go, we had this discussion before. That money would go to socials anyway. So it goes to socials where it helps the station actually.
Most agencies have their radio spend and their digital spend. And so, exactly. From a radio point of perspective, if you're trying to obviously keep the money coming in, you just got to make sure that digital spend doesn't get bigger than radio spend.
Absolutely.
And if it does, well, are you guys in the digital space? Are you playing the right way? And it's not just about putting, a photo up and a logo of a brand and your brand with it. That's not what social media is. There's a way of doing it. I live and breathe on my phone. This is not only what makes me money, but it's my connection with everything else, right? So when I look at my Instagram, my WhatsApp, my Twitter hours at the end of the week, and they're really high, some people see it and be like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. I'm like, no, this is my work. I do stories every day to keep people. I've got storyboards running on my social media every day. When I go on holidays, people tell me, you're going to have a break from social media. I'm like, absolutely not. That's a whole new another story that my 500,000 followers will get to see, right? And it's really important to bring it all together. We use social media content on air. So, Rossi may go, hey, last night on your Instagram, I saw that you were at the vet with your dog. What happened? Bang, it now brings it on air. We wouldn't have never done that. He wouldn't have seen it if it wasn't on my social.
That cross connection,
Right,
I think, is really powerful.
A couple quick audience questions, and we're putting you to bed. First one, you may not want to answer, but when will Dubai Bling Season 2 come out?
We have no idea about Dubai Bling Season 2. Everyone's been asking us about it. If it does come out, I'm sure they'll make an announcement. There's nothing that I know of personally.
All right.
Next one.
Next one.
Sergey from Russia. Which way you promote your show? I think we discussed that like pretty intensively. Good combination between online and on air, or socials and on air. Way to go. Cross connect whatever you can. Maybe check Kris' Instagram. That might help to answer that question. Great production. Obviously, we said that before. Hello to Mitch here. Yeah. Anything to add? Any specifics, Kris, on how you promote your show?
No, I just think consistency is the key to a lot of this as well. Like just being consistent. If you've got benchmarks, have your benchmarks, deliveries, keep it tight when you need to, loosen up when you want to. Again, hearing radio sometimes over in other countries where, their morning presenters after the breakfast show are given 11-second speed breaks. I don't like. I want to hear the talent. I think talent is really, really important in all day parts. I don't just think it's breakfast drive. I think it's important across the day. I want to hear our presenters, and I'm not saying that I want to hear the talent talk for 2 minutes on something that we don't need to hear it in 2 minutes, but I want to hear their personality come out. With podcasts and obviously Spotify, where people can just go listen to their music. Why are they coming to us? They're coming to us because they want to hear Kris Fade, Pretty Mullock, and Big Rossi on the radio every morning. So I think it's just important just to keep that going. But promoting it, we do our best where we can. We don't have huge marketing budgets at all. We try to hit the streets a lot. I've done a concept that I kicked off about 11 years ago, and I do it every year. It's called the Kris Fade Show's Best in the UAE. And right now we do a best coffee. We look for the best coffee in the UAE, the best burger, the best pizza, the best hotel. We run this over about 3 months. We will receive approximately 500,000 votes over those campaigns. And what you'll find now, for example, is we're doing best coffee. Our top 10 coffees are now sitting at virginradiodubai.com. They have PR companies now PRing this campaign to win the Kris Fade Show's best coffee. So we are now getting promoted across the entire country by other companies because they want to win our coffee shop, right? So trying to find smart ways of doing that. I kicked that off. It was an idea that I wanted to run about I think it was about 8 years ago, and it just fired off. Another way that we promote ourselves, we do the Kris Fade Show's 20 schools in 20 days. And every day for 20 days, we go out and visit a school after the show. And it's a couple of thousand kids at a school. We rock up in this limousine that they give us, which is always cool. We go out there, we interact, we give away prizes. We have so much fun. But we're seeing 2,000 kids every day for 20 days. Do the maths.
That's fantastic.
Because it just spreads across the country. So trying to infiltrate the community is the best way of doing it, as well as doing just good radio.
Well, Kris, just to wrap things up here, I mean, I'm always been impressed with you. Your work ethic is beyond anything, really. I mean, here it is. You've been working since 4 a.m. You're up talking to us. It's nearly 11 o'clock at night in Dubai. And that says a lot. And the other thing I sense just from our conversation today is you don't have a big ego.
I don't know. Some people on social media that have never met me think I do. And I'm like, well, that's great. I try to be as humble as I possibly can. I honestly do. I try to be, I count my blessings every single day. Everything that I do and I'm given is for my children and my wife and my family. Like that's everything that I want to do is just for them, man. So I look at what I get to do for a living, and yeah, it's hard. Like, you're right. I've been up since 4 this morning. It's 11 o'clock right now. I'll be back up at 4 tomorrow, and we've got a full day again. But I look at what I get to do. Like, when I drive to work sometimes, and it's around 4:45, 5 o'clock, and there'll be a worker's truck drive by me with a bunch of amazing, hard working laborers, man. And they're in this bus and, you know, they're probably getting paid, you know, 1/100th of what I get paid. And I think they've got to go and dig a hole and smash some walls down. And I get to go and sit in a studio and
exactly. Yeah.
into a microphone and give cash away and holidays away. So I think once you just sort of reevaluate what's going on around the world and what's happening around you, you count your blessings and then you try to stay as humble as you can.
That's a beautiful word to I think to end this conversation. Like, perspectives is everything, man. I agree.
Yeah.
And you said that like so incredibly nice. I think
So
it's wonderful.
And a final comment here from one of the viewers today. Kris, you're an incredible talent and a class act. What a way to sum up tonight. Thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure to have you. So we want to thank you, of course, our producer, Robbie, and most of all for you watching the webinar today. It's going to be posted tomorrow on the P1 Media Group and Benstown channels, also on YouTube and all our social channels. So if you missed it, want to watch it again, and highly recommend you share this one because Kris shared some incredible stories and some great advice on social media and other things that you can actually borrow and utilize to help build your own personal brand in your radio station. And of course, you can see the whole series anytime at Global Radio Ideas, either on the P1 Media Group site or on YouTube. So, Kris, thank you on behalf of Andy and myself and Benstown P1. You're the best, and good night.
Sleep well, my friend.
Well, thank you, guys. Honored to be here. Thank you. We'll do it again as well soon. So thank you so much.
Season 2, we'll be back.
Done.
Okay, all right.
Take it easy.
Bye.
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 Cheers, guys.